In a stunning and unexpected move, the Supreme Court has overturned President Donald Trump's highly controversial tariff orders, which had been at the center of heated national debate for months. The decision marks the dramatic end of a fierce legal and political battle that has defined his current term, drawing sharp lines between supporters and critics across the country. This was more than just a court case. It was a pivotal test of presidential power, the limits of executive authority, and the future direction of the American economy. The ruling sent shockwaves through Washington and beyond, surprising political observers and legal experts alike, especially given the court's conservative majority. Many see the decision as a powerful and rare statement of judicial independence, a direct check on the reach of executive power, and a reminder that no branch of government is above the law. For months, these tariffs divided lawmakers, business leaders, and everyday Americans, fueling passionate debates in Congress and around kitchen tables nationwide. Supporters argued the tariffs were a necessary shield for American jobs and industries, protecting workers from unfair foreign competition and boosting domestic manufacturing. But opponents saw them as an illegal tax that hurt consumers, raised prices on everyday goods, and put small businesses at risk, deepening economic uncertainty for many families. The Supreme Court's decision doesn't just settle a legal dispute, it fundamentally reshapes the rules for presidential trade policy, setting a precedent that will echo for years to come. The story is far from over. This landmark ruling opens a new, unpredictable chapter for the nation's economy, its leadership, and the ongoing debate over the balance of power in American government. To truly grasp the significance of today's Supreme Court decision, we need to take a step back and understand the events that led us here. The roots of this moment stretch back several years, to a time when the global economy was shifting and America's role in international trade was under intense scrutiny. The imposition of tariffs didn't happen overnight. It was a response to growing concerns about trade imbalances, job losses, and the perceived erosion of American manufacturing. These tariffs were introduced as a bold, controversial measure to address what many saw as a crisis. President Trump's America First trade policy was at the heart of this shift. He argued that foreign competitors were taking advantage of the U.S. and that strong action was needed to protect American workers and industries. His administration's approach was unapologetically aggressive, sparking fierce debate at home and abroad. Tariffs, essentially taxes on imported goods, were designed to make foreign products more expensive, with the hope that Americans would buy more domestically made items. The idea was to level the playing field for U.S. businesses and encourage investment in American jobs. Beginning in February 2025, sweeping tariffs were imposed on a wide range of products from China, Canada, Europe, and Asia. Some rates soared as high as 145%, affecting everything from electronics to raw materials. The scale and scope of these tariffs were unprecedented in recent history. To justify these actions, President Trump invoked the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, declaring that America's trade deficits pose a national emergency. This legal maneuver gave the administration broad authority to reshape trade policy almost overnight. The impact was immediate and far-reaching. American manufacturers and small businesses, already operating on thin margins, suddenly faced soaring costs for materials and components. Many struggled to adapt, passing higher prices on to consumers. Everyday essentials were hit hard. Coffee prices, for example, jumped 41% in just a single year, squeezing both cafe owners and their customers. The effects rippled through the economy. Appliances like washing machines, and even basic items like shoes, became noticeably more expensive, straining household budgets across the country. Multiple studies confirmed what many families already felt. American households bore the brunt of these tariffs, not the foreign companies or governments they were meant to target. The cost of living rose, and economic anxiety deepened. The U.S. Treasury collected a staggering $174 billion in tariff revenue, yet critics pointed out that this money ultimately came from American pockets, not from overseas rivals. The debate over who truly paid the price intensified. The nation was deeply divided. For some, the tariffs represented a necessary sacrifice to restore American strength. For others, they were a self-inflicted wound that hurt workers and consumers alike, fueling political and economic tensions. Now, with the Supreme Court's decision, the country must confront the full consequences of these policies and decide what comes next. The Trump administration defended the tariffs as essential for economic survival, citing emergency powers under the IEEPA. Trump argued tariffs gave the U.S. leverage in trade talks, pointing to new deals as proof. But a coalition of states, led by California, challenged the tariffs as unconstitutional overreach. They argued only Congress can impose taxes, and the IEEPA was never meant for this purpose. Attorney General Rob Bonta called the administration's logic mental gymnastics. Economists, including former Fed chairs, warned tariffs hurt consumers and businesses, not foreign adversaries. Maury Obstfeld of the Peterson Institute said Trump's warnings were exaggerated. The legal and economic opposition was clear. The president had gone too far. The Supreme Court would have the final say. The economic fallout from Trump's tariffs was massive and measurable. The U.S. Treasury collected $174 billion, but this was paid by American importers and passed to consumers. California alone projected $25 billion in economic losses and over 64,000 jobs at risk. Major companies like GM and Mattel faced rising costs. Small businesses struggled to survive. Uncertainty stifled investment and growth, especially for smaller enterprises. For families, the impact was clear: higher prices on everything from coffee to electronics. Goldman Sachs found consumers shouldered more than half the tariff costs. The tariffs acted as a hidden tax, reducing household purchasing power nationwide. The numbers told a story of widespread economic pain. The Supreme Court showdown centered on whether Trump had the authority to impose sweeping tariffs. Plaintiffs argued only Congress can levy taxes, and Trump used the IEEPA as a loophole. They said trade deficits aren't emergencies justifying such powers. California's Attorney General accused the administration of bypassing Congress for political gain. Lower courts agreed, setting up a historic Supreme Court battle. The administration argued the IEEPA gave the president broad discretion to protect economic security. Oral arguments were tense, with justices probing the limits of presidential power. Trump's unprecedented involvement underscored the stakes. The nation waited as the justices deliberated a case that would define the balance of power. The outcome would shape the presidency for years to come. The Supreme Court delivered a decisive 6-3 ruling. Trump had exceeded his authority under the IEEPA. The majority declared that while the president can regulate commerce in emergencies, only Congress can impose tariffs. The court drew a clear line: tariffs are taxes, and taxing power belongs to Congress. Allowing a president to create a new tax system by emergency decree would erase a key congressional power. The ruling crossed ideological lines, emphasizing constitutional structure over politics. The dissent warned the decision could limit future presidents' flexibility, but their view did not prevail. The verdict was clear: Trump's tariffs were unconstitutional. The power to impose them rests with Congress alone. The court reaffirmed its role as a check on executive overreach. The Supreme Court's decision sparked immediate, intense reactions. President Trump condemned the ruling, warning of economic disaster and accusing justices of betrayal. But for many consumers and business owners, relief was palpable. Lower prices and stability were in sight. Industry leaders welcomed the end of unpredictable costs. California's Governor Newsom called it a landmark win for the rule of law. Congress was divided. Some praised the court for defending its authority. Others vowed to restore tariffs legislatively. Economists felt vindicated, predicting lower prices and economic growth. Financial markets responded with cautious optimism. The ruling drew new battle lines in America's ongoing debate over trade and presidential power. The Supreme Court's decision triggers sweeping changes for both the economy and the presidency, sending shockwaves through Washington and beyond. This landmark ruling is more than just a legal technicality. It's a turning point that will shape how the government, businesses, and global partners interact for years to come. The government must now refund billions in tariffs, injecting a surge of cash back into American businesses. This unexpected windfall could help companies recover, spur new investments, and potentially lower prices for everyday consumers. For small business owners and workers, it's a welcome relief after years of uncertainty and higher costs. With the tariffs voided, trade disputes that once strained relationships with key partners may begin to cool. Negotiations over trade policy will now shift back to Congress, where lawmakers must find new ways to protect American interests while keeping global commerce flowing. The president, having lost a major bargaining chip with countries like China and Canada, faces a new diplomatic landscape. Without the ability to unilaterally impose tariffs, the executive branch must rely more on coalition building and negotiation. The ruling sets a powerful precedent. Emergency powers can't simply replace the legislative process, especially when it comes to taxes and trade. This decision draws a clear line, reinforcing the separation of powers. Future presidents must now work directly with Congress to impose tariffs or change trade policy. This means more debate, more compromise, and a return to the foundational principles of American democracy. The decision reaffirms the checks and balances at the heart of the U.S. government, ensuring that no single branch can act alone on matters as important as taxation and trade. For the economy, it offers immediate relief and a sense of stability, while also restricting the reach of unilateral executive power. Businesses and consumers alike can look forward to a more predictable environment. The nation's leaders must now return to the negotiating table, both at home and abroad, working together to craft policies that reflect the will of the people and the realities of a global economy. Ultimately, the power to tax remains with Congress, just as the Constitution intended, preserving the balance of power that defines American democracy.